Welcome back, friends, to another captivating tale from ZK Auto Reviews, your home for thrilling journeys into the world of military combat vehicles. Today, we're stepping into a time machine and heading back to an era where armor clashed with innovation and raw firepower met strategic brilliance. Our story revolves around a true Cold War warrior, a tank that stood tall amidst uncertainty and tension. The formidable M60A1, a machine born of necessity, refined through adversity, and remembered today as one of America's most iconic main battle tanks. The M60A1 wasn't just another steel beast rolling across the battlefield. It was a calculated answer to a rapidly shifting world order. As the 1950s gave way to the more volatile 1960s, military strategists realized that the Soviet Union's armored forces were growing not just in number, but in capability. The T-54s and later the T-62s posed a serious threat to Western forces, and the U.S. needed something more than the aging M48 Patton series to hold the line. Enter the M60, the base model introduced in 1960, a tank that already impressed, but it was the M60A1 variant arriving in 1962 that truly defined this legend. The M60A1 was not simply a tweak, it was a leap forward. Imagine a tank that blended the ruggedness of the Patton bloodline with modern upgrades, transforming it into a beast ready for any theater of war. It carried the same powerful 105mm M68 rifled gun, a licensed version of Britain's revered Royal Ordnance L7. But where it excelled was in its hull design and armor enhancements. The newly designed, sharply sloped needle-nose turret wasn't just an aesthetic upgrade, it was a game-changer. This cast steel turret was more compact, better protected, and allowed the tank to present a smaller silhouette to the enemy, which made a real difference on the battlefield. And what a battlefield presence it had. The M60A1 was a tank that looked like it meant business. With its long barrel, wide tracks, and sturdy, purposeful stance, it radiated confidence. Beneath that armored shell roared a Continental AVDS 1792 V12 air-cooled twin-turbo diesel engine, pumping out 750 horsepower. This engine, though not the quietest or the most fuel-efficient, gave the M60A1 enough muscle to push its 50-ton frame across rough terrain at a top speed of around 30 miles per hour. Not lightning fast, but fast enough to maneuver, reposition, and support infantry effectively. But the M60A1 was never just about brute force. This tank embodied balance. It had good firepower, solid protection, and enough mobility to get the job done. The torsion bar suspension system and improved shock absorbers helped it traverse uneven terrain with a surprising degree of comfort for its time. Crews appreciated the ride, as much as anyone can appreciate riding in an armored box rumbling through mud and rocks. Inside, the ergonomics were practical, if not luxurious. It wasn't cozy, but every lever, dial, and sight had a purpose, designed with soldier functionality in mind. One of the M60A1's greatest strengths, though, was its longevity. This was not a tank that served for a few years and disappeared into history books. No, the M60A1 was a mainstay in the U.S. arsenal for over 2 decades. From the deserts of the Middle East to the plains of Europe, it served in various roles and adaptations, holding the line in NATO forces and proving itself in exercises, conflicts, and crises alike. It was even exported and used by numerous allied nations, including Israel, Italy, and Egypt, some of which continued operating upgraded versions well into the 21st century. Israel's use of the M60A1 is particularly notable. Known locally as the Magach, Israeli-modified M60s saw action in the Yom Kippur War and beyond, often going toe-to-toe with Soviet-supplied T-series tanks in the harshest of environments. The M60A1 proved it could fight and survive in deserts, mountains, and urban environments alike. It had its flaws, sure. It was large, had a relatively high profile, and its armor, though sloped and solid, eventually became vulnerable to newer anti-tank weapons. But with proper tactics and upgrades, it remained an effective tool of war long after its original design was penned. Over the years, the M60A1 also served as a versatile platform for innovation. Engineers loved working with it. It was adapted into bridge layers, armored recovery vehicles, and even experimented with reactive armor and fire control systems. The A3 version, which followed, took those upgrades even further, but it was the A1 that formed the backbone of U.S. armored forces throughout the critical years of the Cold War. What made the M60A1 truly special wasn't just its battlefield stats. It was the trust it earned from those who operated it. Tank crews often speak of it with a kind of reverence. They knew the machine, its quirks, its strengths, and its limits. They knew how to coax performance out of it in the worst conditions. It was dependable, easy to maintain compared to more modern tanks, and it had that rare quality. You always felt it had your back. For many soldiers, it was the steel guardian that never let them down. And here's an interesting little fact. The M60A1 never officially carried the Patton name, even though it's often grouped with the Patton series. That's right. The U.S. military never formally designated it as a Patton tank. Still, in the minds of many, it was the spiritual successor. A symbol of American tank development bridging the gap between the post-WW20 world and the age of the M1 Abrams. Speaking of the Abrams, when it finally came to replace the M60A1 in the early 1980s, it had some big shoes to fill. The M60A1 had already set a high standard for reliability and combat effectiveness. It had proved that you didn't need cutting-edge everything to win on the battlefield, just a well-thought-out design, executed with consistency and backed by determined crews. Even today, decades after its retirement from frontline American service, the M60A1 still pops up in the hands of smaller militaries, still rumbling through training grounds, and in some cases, still seeing combat. That speaks volumes about its design and durability. A tank that keeps fighting long after the world expected it to fade away. At ZK Auto Reviews, we love these stories. Stories where engineering meets history and where machines become legends. The M60A1 is more than just bolts and armor. It's a symbol of an era, a warrior of steel and smoke, and a reminder of how much can be achieved with determination and ingenuity. We salute the crews who manned it, the designers who built it, and the legacy it leaves behind on dusty roads and silent training fields across the globe. If you enjoyed this journey into the world of the M60A1, don't forget to subscribe to ZK Auto Reviews for more deep dives into the legendary machines that shaped our world. Give this video a like if it brought the tank to life for you, and drop a comment below. Maybe you have a story of your own about the M60, or perhaps a favorite tank you'd like us to cover next. We're always excited to hear from you. Until next time, keep your engines roaring and your armor strong, only here at ZK Auto Reviews.